truth?
Only one truth.
With consequences.
And that's the truth that I know.
It's time to answer. Bash of the Beach 2000.
Many stories.
Brawl for all.
Definitely having second thoughts.
David Arquette is world champion.
Publicity.
Hear the real story behind the scenes of wrestling's biggest moments. The Montreal Screwjob.
Only one person, and that was me.
Vince Russo's Truth with Consequences.
Over 25 years of abuse.
With Matt Coon. Welcome to Vince Russo's Truth with Consequences. Vince, how are you doing on this lovely day?
I am doing great, Matt. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. And I think what was fantastic was our show last week. We did an episode on Shawn Michaels, a very interesting period that you were there the whole time. It was the middleman between HBK and VKM, between Montreal to WrestleMania 14. I thought we had some good feedback. I thought it was a great show.
Yeah, and I think, Matt, we left people wanting more, and I think there is more. And I think there will be another show on Shawn. I know we wanted to hit and focus on that particular period in time, but there is so much more, especially concerning my relationship with Shawn, my first-person experience, and I look forward to doing another show about him.
And, you know, that's something to think about, because what we have is we have 52 shows to do a year, and you have a lot of subject matter. And the more details we get into it, the better. People love the details. So, of course, there's many Shawn Michaels shows to go. And earlier this morning, I appeared for the first time on a brand show. Of course, the brand is the 10 shows a week that Vince Russo does on the Realm Network. Now, I was on a show called Bucket Full of Chicken Necks, and you know, it's a show I've heard before. I believe it just means that all topics are up for discussion. Make sure to check out all the brand shows. There's 10 shows a week on the Realm Network, most of them with different co-hosts, whether it be Goldilocks or Jeff Lane or Disco or Stevie Richards or Ben Hameen, and you can get that at russosbrand.com. Is that right, Vince?
Yeah, go to russosbrand.com. You can subscribe there. Guy, no long-term commitment. You can opt out at any time. It's less than $1 a week.
Well, we're going to get right to it this week. And you and I went back and forth on the title of this show. We definitely want to cover the career of Chyna. But you have some viewpoints that the wrestling business killed Chyna, or Joanie Laurer, and that she lost herself in the business. First of all, just without getting into too much detail, we'll get into it later. Why do you think the wrestling business killed this star?
You're going to learn a lot in this show. And you're going to learn a lot about Joanie that you've never heard before. And basically, Matt, the wrestling business throws a lot at us. Matt, the wrestling business has taken years off my life. I know that. Matt, the wrestling business has been at the core of depression that I suffer. No doubt about it. I'm able to handle it. I'm able to cope with it. I know what I have to do to get through the day. It overtook Joanie. She couldn't overcome it. And so many things happened to her at the same time that I don't think people are aware of. And quite frankly, Matt, I don't know if anybody could have overcome it. Honestly, I did not live in her shoes, and with the blows that she had to take, one right after the other in a very close amount of time, I don't know if anybody would have been able to sustain them. Now,
We're going to get to the career of Chyna, but I want to start with this. April 20th, 2016, as written by Dave Meltzer in The Observer, officers were called at 3:35 p.m. after receiving a call that Laurer wasn't breathing. The death is being investigated as an accidental drug overdose. No cause of death can be determined until toxicology reports come in. No suicide note was found. There were several canisters of prescription pills found. None of the canisters were empty, which was taken as an indication that she wasn't attempting to do it on purpose. When did you find out that she was gone, and what was your immediate thought and reaction?
God, it's I had just interviewed Kevin Nash. Kevin Nash and I just did an interview for the brand. And Joanie made some statements on my show that Kevin didn't agree with. So when Kevin came on my show, bro, he brought those comments up, and he was not happy with what some of the things Joanie said, and some of the things she said had to do with Triple H, and of course their boys. I understood. We had a conversation about it, and Kevin kind of said in passing, like, bro, if she doesn't straighten up, like, literally, she's going to kill herself. That's what Kevin said to me. Bro, next night, I get a call from Kevin Nash. Now, I'm thinking Kevin's calling me about something in the interview. Vince, edit this out, or, take that. That's what I'm thinking he's calling from.
We've all got that call, right, Vince?
Yeah, and, that's what I'm thinking he's calling about. And he calls me, man. He goes, Vince, remember what I was telling you yesterday about, Joanie? And I said, yeah. And he goes, well, it happened. And he just said, she's dead. Matt, it's one of those moments, bro, I'll never forget. It goes back to Kansas City with me, with that incident with Owen Hart. And I'll never forget, Shane, whispering in my ear, Owen's gone. I'll never forget those words as long as I live. And it was the same thing all over again. Kevin just telling me, Joanie's gone. And, bro, when you hear that, it's like it's surreal, and you can't even process it, and you can't even register it. And you're kind of hoping you're not really hearing it. But I was hearing it, and, literally that's the way I found out. It was through Kevin.
Of course, that is the end of the story, but it's a long story, and it starts with, her at 18 years old. First link to wrestling is she dated Brutus Beefcake, and at the age of 25, she enters Killer Kowalski's school, of course, which produced Triple H as well as Perry Saturn, and of course Kowalski's a legend. It is said that WWE was interested in her because Kowalski let Shane McMahon know that WCW was interested in her. When did you become aware of Chyna, Joanie Laurer?
Matt, we got to back up.
Here we go.
Because this is going to be very pertinent to the situation. Let's face it, there are some people I do not like. I don't hate anybody. I can tell you that without a shadow of a doubt. I don't hate anybody. Hatred is not in my body. I don't hate Jim Cornette. I don't hate Eric Bischoff. I don't hate anybody. There's a reason why Eric Bischoff is the way he is. There's a reason why Cornette's the way he is. There's a reason why Vince Russo is the way he is. You've got to go back to the roots of that person to really understand how they were molded in their younger years and their teenage years to really become the adult that they now are. I am going to reel off some things to you that are going to bring us to the death of Joanie Laurer, and it will paint a much clearer picture for everybody of why she was not able to handle everything that was thrown her way. She was not capable of it. Here are the reasons why. I'm not going to go into this long. These are bullet points, Matt. Parents divorced at the age of 4. 3 stepfathers, 1 stepmother. Unstable household. Moving constantly, one house to the other, constant movement, okay? Left home at the age of 16. Raped by 2 men after getting drunk at a party. Somehow, some way, wound up in Spain where she finished high school. Was in the ROTC. wanted to be an FBI agent or wanted to be in the DEA. Wound up in the Peace Corps in Guatemala. Singer of a band, flight attendant, belly dancer, bodybuilder, wrestler.
Of course, that background will inform what happens later in your mind as you feel this put her more at risk for the pitfalls of the wrestling business.
Yeah, it was what do they call it, Matt? A Molotov cocktail?
Yeah.
It was that. It was that. When you look at this background and you look at the hand she was dealt, I'm going to go right back to it. I don't know if anybody could have overcame it.
When did you first become aware of her?
Matt, you know, bro, we got to be so politically correct.
Sure.
I don't know how to say this without being honest. We were in catering one day. Triple H is sitting across from Joanie. Matt, I don't know if it's a guy. I don't know if it's a girl. I don't know if it's a transgender. I don't know if it's a transsexual. My first glance of Joanie, I did not know what she was. I'm just being honest with you. It was a very different look. Bro, she was so muscular. So without a verbal communication, without a conversation with her, at first glimpse, I did not know she was a woman.
And I think it's fair because a lot of us at home had the same reaction when we first saw her. And I think they played into that. She's a very, we talk about Goldust being someone who they want to be androgynous. Chyna truly was androgynous, especially among her debut. When did you come to meet her? Were you introduced to her?
I'm sure I was introduced to her that day. Then think about it, Matt. Think about this. Matt, I don't want to use the word freak, but when I say a freak of nature, by freak of nature, I mean you're seeing it. You don't run across this type of person every day. Okay, so it's freakish when it comes to the norm. You don't meet people like Joanie every day. So Matt, you gotta, then you gotta figure. I'm looking at her. I'm trying to figure this thing out. And then I get the introduction from Hunter, and what do I get? The first thing you get is that very high-pitched voice. So then it was what are we dealing with here? I mean, that I'm just being as truthfully honest as I could. That was really the first encounter.
When she's being brought there and she's at catering, is she Hunter's girlfriend, or is she someone they're bringing on as a talent?
No, we don't know that at all. I didn't know that at all.
She's a new talent in your eyes.
She's a new talent, and listen, let me tell you right off the bat, this is how you know. This is the it factor. When you walked in that catering hall, all eyes turned to Joanie. That people don't understand the it factor. I explain the it factor to people. Walk through a freaking airport. That's how you'll know if you've got the in fact. Are people turning their heads and looking at you? There's something special about this person. There's something unique. There's something only this person possesses. And that day, all eyes from day one were going to Joanie Laurer.
With Hunter, his gimmick at the time was, at first, he would bring a different lovely lady to the ring every time. And that was used as a launching point for Sable, who was one of those ladies who turned on him. And now, I guess the decision is made. She's going to escort Triple H to the ring, as a female heater. Whose idea was it to pair them up? Was that the plan the whole time?
I'm sure that was the plan the whole time. And I'm sure because from what I understand, Triple H and Shawn, they had pitched her.
It's a great idea, right? It's a very unusual idea. A heater is an inside wrestling term for a bigger, like a Kevin Nash to a Shawn Michaels. And what an unusual, great pitch that is.
Well, not only was it an unusual, great pitch, but, they were not bringing Chyna in to get a job and do anything. They specifically were bringing her in to work with them.
Now, it wasn't said at the time, obviously, but at that time, Triple H, Hunter, and Chyna were a couple.
I don't know. I'm assuming yes. I'm assuming yes, Matt, but I did not know that 100% for sure.
How did you think the reaction went when she comes out? How do you think it worked? What do you think the impact was? What was Vince's reaction? How did people feel about her as the valet to Triple H?
God, man, it was special the moment she walked out. It was just one of those special moments, and it was one of the moments that you'd never seen before. I mean, let's face it, man, there had been a lot of great females in the business. But when you talk about, just the physical stature, and the body and the look, and the charisma. I mean, carrying that kind of charisma without saying anything, you'd never seen that before, especially in a woman. Now, you'd seen powerful. You've seen women who had different traits. You saw powerful women. You saw charismatic women. You saw athletic women. You never saw one individual with all this built into one body. So from day one, she got your attention.
So the plan is for her to stand at ringside, get involved in matches, not talk. When did people start thinking we could do more with her than just be a sidekick?
God, I think from the beginning, Matt, and obviously, let's face it, she didn't talk because of her voice. You could not have this imposing figure like this, and then the minute she opens her mouth and she had that high-pitched voice, nobody would foresee her speaking like that. And we were afraid that was going to kill the mystique. So that was the reason why she didn't speak. But as far as where we were going with her, I mean, my God, we knew that the sky was going to be the limit. I'll never forget anybody can go back and look at this. The first time I saw her ragdoll Terry Runnels.
Classic.
Oh, my God. Right. Like, my God. I mean, you don't forget things like that.
In ragdolling Terry, do you remember about whose idea that was, or anything about that particular situation? Because that's one of those first kind of moments we remember Chyna really getting physically involved and showing what she could do.
I don't remember exactly whose idea that was, but man, I will tell you this too. I want to bring this up now, because I don't know if we're going to get into it later, and I don't want it to get lost. When you were talking creative with the three of them, I'm talking about the original DX, Shawn Hunter, and Chyna. When you are talking creative with them, Matt, she is never saying a word. Triple H from day one is doing all the talking. She never, when I would be meeting with the three of them and we would be standing around in an empty arena talking about what we're doing tonight, she would never say a word, nothing, never interjected. Nobody ever said, Chyna, what do you think? Everything was communicated through Paul. That's very important to understand with where we're going.
At some point during the initial DX run, she gets implants. And it's kind of the first of what you alluded to earlier, many plastic surgery trips that she took. First of all, how does that come about with any talent? And second of all, Chyna in particular, was that something that was encouraged? Was that something that you supported? Was it something that surprised you?
If a woman wants to get breast implants, I'm never a part of that conversation. Bro, listen, I don't know anything about the B cup, the C cup, or the D cup, Matt, but I got to be honest with you. Like, whether you have a B cup or a D cup, it isn't going to affect the way I book you. I'm just being honest with you. A lot of times with the women, that's a personal choice. Whether they think it's going to help their character or it's going to draw more, I certainly never in my wildest dreams would have told a female you need to get breast implants.
But
so, go ahead, Matt.
In a organization where if you cut your hair without telling people, they get mad, or you talk about, you change your look up because of the gimmick, it seems kind of unreasonable to think there wasn't talk behind the scenes by.
Oh, that's what I was getting to, Matt. I would assume the conversation started with Jim Ross. I would assume the conversation started in talent relations. That's what I would assume. So I would assume, Joanie wanted them. She had her reasons for wanting them. I would assume the first conversation would be with Jim Ross. And then I would assume that next conversation would be between Jim Ross and Vince McMahon. And, Vince McMahon would give the approval.
Do you think the surgery conversation ever started from the other side, where it would be suggested back then?
I can only speak for myself. I don't think so, Matt. For that character, I would have not had her have the implants. That character did not need the implant. That's not who that character was. So me personally, I would have voted against it. I would have said, I don't think that enhances her character. As a matter of fact, I think it kind of makes her character take a little step backwards because, now she has, a big chest, and is that taking the focus off of this freaking incredible body? So like in this case, I would have said, I don't think she should get them, but I had absolutely nothing to do with that process.
During this time in pitches, creative meetings, she didn't speak. Triple H spoke for her, you said. What were your conversations like with her? What were your interactions like with the young, new to the business Joanie Laurer?
Personal. Like it was never business. She would not talk business without Triple H present. So when you talked to her on the side, it was just friendly banter, friendly conversation. It was never business. Chyna and Joanie and I never had a conversation about DX or about her character or about direction without Triple H present, ever.
When did you become aware that there was an outside the building relationship?
When I would see them inseparable. The way Hunter took care of her on the road was unbelievable. He was always with her. He was always a gentleman. He was always opening up doors. They ate together. They worked out together. They were inseparable. They always did everything together. But when I saw them, and when they didn't realize I was seeing them, when I was looking at them from afar, God, bro, he treated her with such the utmost respect. I mean, just the that's what I always saw with my own eyes. He treated her special. It's almost like, Matt, when, you meet the woman that is the one, and the woman who eventually becomes your wife, and you just treat her that, she is just this gift and you can't do enough for her. That's what I always saw when they were outside of the building.
We also know in the wrestling business to this very day, you get attractive men and women together, traveling together, working together. There's going to be situations that arise. Rumors had to start swirling. When did the rest of the people back, the boys, the people up at Titan Tower, when did they start talking about Triple H and Chyna being together as a romantic couple?
Well, Matt, you got to understand something. Part of my job was I would have to have creative meetings and conversations with all the talent all the time. I mean, that's what I did from the day the production meeting broke until we went on the air and during the show. Constant creative conversations. You got to understand, that very first day when Triple H was speaking for Chyna, it was clear to me they were together. Yeah, because if they were not together, Chyna would have been focused on her character and what she was doing, and she would have been a part of the conversation. The fact that Triple H spoke to her, I knew they were a couple.
Meltzer writes that people were surprised that they were together because just the physical appearance that you alluded to earlier. Was there a level of surprise when people were saying, wow, Chyna and Triple H are together? Or did everybody just kind of knew?
I think there was a level of surprise that Hunter was with somebody like Chyna. Do you understand what I'm saying? You got to understand, pretty boy, long hair. We just went through that whole thing of him bringing with a different girl every week. But this is, who that person chooses to date. So I don't think it was a secret that they were together. I think people were just taken back that somebody like Paul, for whatever reason, would choose to have a relationship with somebody like Chyna.
There was a point, of course, she makes her debut throttling Marlena in February of 1997. And then, the whole round with DX all the way to WrestleMania 14. She's not wrestling, but she'll break out Hurricane Rana once in a while. Did you always know that she was going to wrestle men eventually?
Yeah. I mean, because it was believable. It was 100% believable. I mean, my God, talk about believable. Bro, she had a boxing match with Joey Buttafuoco. And she didn't win, but she freaking held her own. So it was believable that, somebody with her presence and her stature and that body and that frame could hold her own in the ring against a man. And she did it as a shoot.
Vince Russo, Truth with Consequences, is being brought to you by and could not exist without patreon.com/RussoCoonTWC. Now, what is Patreon? Patreon is a place you can go. You can subscribe for a small monthly fee and get a lot of extra content. That means the episode you're listening to now, longer. The one last week, much longer. The one this week, much earlier. But also bonus content, little gifts, live videos, phone call from Vince, all kind of stuff. But more importantly, it's the way that you can support our podcast here. If you like what we do here, you're going to love what we do at Patreon. That's patreon.com/RussoCoonTWC. Go ahead and be a member today. And you guys kind of worked your way into it. She didn't have any matches in 1997. She had 2 matches in 1998. One was a handicap match against with her and Sean Waltman against Mark Henry. The other one I was actually in attendance for, which was at a Raw in Richmond, Virginia. It was an 8-person tag match. It was the same show where Mick Foley wrestled Terry Funk in a Falls Count Anywhere match. What was the immediate feedback to her wrestling with men?
God, Matt, I got to be honest with you. It was just like she was one of the boys.
Nobody said, I'm not going to sell for her. I'm not going to wrestle her.
No, like absolutely not. And bro, everybody had the utmost respect. Bro, as I said, she did not say much behind the scenes.
She starts wrestling a little bit here and there, but it really kind of takes off when she becomes the first woman to enter the Royal Rumble in 1999. That was a Rumble you were there for. Do you remember this transition of saying, okay, now it is time for her to really kind of make her mark as a wrestler?
Well, just the perfect spot to do it. You know what I'm saying, bro? She's in the Royal Rumble. So she's in there with 29 other guys. We had the ability to let her enter the Royal Rumble, but also protect her, make her look good, but also make the situation look very, very real. I think it was the perfect spot to book her. It was a huge attraction that she was in it, but there was really no pressure that it was a big singles match at a show like the Royal Rumble. I think it was probably the perfect way to book it.
I'm going to read from you. It goes from the Observer, Meltzer writing. It goes against what you're saying, and I just want your reaction to it. There was considerable opposition to Chyna doing singles matches with men, although at the time, Vince Russo and Levesque were the key people pushing for it. After Russo left WWF for WCW and the novelty had faded, the fans were starting to reject the idea and resented seeing her fight evenly and go over on men. What is your reaction to that?
I could tell you this, bro. This I could tell you. One of the last things that I was booking for Chyna, and I was not there for the match, I left right before the match, was the Good Housekeeping match.
Right. October 17th.
And I could tell you, Jeff had a problem putting Chyna over. I can tell you that he did not want to do it. He was opposed to doing it. And that was really the first kind of pushback I had ever gotten. What happened after that, Matt? I don't know. I wasn't there. I wasn't watching it, so I couldn't tell you.
Before that Good Housekeeping match, in 1999, she wrestled 39 matches, all of which except 2 were on television or pay-per-view. There was a tease for a few days that she would actually headline SummerSlam against Austin for the title, according to Meltzer.
That is so untrue. Now, there were never, ever, ever, ever any conversations of Chyna wrestling Austin or Chyna being the WWE heavyweight champion. There were no conversations that I was a part of.
But on screen, she won a 3-way on Raw over Triple H and Undertaker with Michaels as referee and Venture as the announcer to become the top contender. It was teased that it could be that way on screen. So you're saying that it wasn't ever in actuality, it wasn't something you guys were floating out there to see and if people liked. It was just leading to something else. Absolutely.
And I'll tell you why. Chyna in the ring against Austin at that time, that's not believable to me. That's not now Jeff, who's a chicken shit heel, small in stature. I mean, I can buy that. With as red hot as Steve Austin was, A, that wasn't believable, and B, like I would have known, Steve would have had a problem with that. Not the man, the character. Steve, I think, would have had a problem with that. So there were many, many, many reasons why that would not have been booked.
Chyna was part of the Attitude Era. That was a good ratings draw. The match we're talking about, the 3-way match with Triple H and Undertaker, did a 6.91 overrun rating, going head-to-head with a Nitro match where Hulk Hogan and Sting and Goldberg faced Kevin Nash, Sid Vicious, and Rick Steiner, which did a 4.4. How important was Chyna to you at this time of being a ratings draw?
Well, you see, the booking of that match, you got to understand, Triple H and Chyna are together. So, that it's not like Chyna's going in there in a 3-way against Taker. And, that when if you were just to say that to me and she was not together with Triple H, I mean, I'm not booking that. But the fact that she's with Triple H, they're DX, they're a team, that makes sense. But my God, bro, when you give me those numbers, that tells you everything you need to draw, that everything you need to hear. This is kind of, what are they going to do in this match type of thing? What is going to happen if Undertaker gets his hands on Chyna? What is going to happen if Undertaker eliminates Triple H and it's him and Chyna? This is one of those matches that you have to see because it's a spectacle. She's involved in this. You kind of want to see where they're going with this.
Let's get to the Good Housekeeping match, which of course is, Jarrett is the IC champion. So the real talk is that Chyna is going to become the Intercontinental Champion. Of course, this was just a couple weeks after you left. A Good Housekeeping match seems kind of up your alley. When did the conversations take place that we're thinking about giving Chyna the Intercontinental title?
Well, the housekeeping match, and I remember having conversations with him, bro. The Good Housekeeping match was meant to protect Jeff. Because I explained to Jeff, she could hit you with the kitchen sink and then pin you. Like, do you understand, bro? So it's not just Chyna. The fact that it's Good Housekeeping, she can hit you with something and knock you out. I mean, you will be 100% protected in this match.
So tell us.
And I got to tell you something, Matt. I've never seen that match.
Well, you're luckier than most of us. So let me, although you probably love it, quite honestly. What are the conversations? You mentioned Jeff Jarrett did not want to put Chyna over. What were the conversations you had with Jeff Jarrett? How heated were they, and how firm was he in that resolution that I don't want to do this? This isn't going to happen.
It wasn't like that. And Jeff was always a pro, and Jeff was always a team player. It was not going to get heated like that, but he made it clear to me. And it wasn't even a matter of putting her over. I think it was the match even. He just made it unclear to me that he did not agree with the idea. He was going to be a pro and he was going to put it over. He was going to make it look good, but he did not agree with the booking.
At the point that you left the company in mid to late 1999, how important did you see Chyna in the company? Where did you see her place in the pecking order on the company? And what did you feel her future would be in the company?
She was huge, man. She was huge. She was a draw. Chyna put asses in seats. You paid money to go see Chyna. No doubt about it. No doubt about it. Whether you were an adult male, whether you were a woman because of what she represented, whether you were a kid, especially, female children that looked up to her like she was Wonder Woman, she put asses in seats. When you're putting asses in seats, in my opinion, you are a main eventer. And people paid money to see Chyna.
Did you feel maybe, we know how you feel about titles and we know how you feel about, entertainment. If you were hanging out there, if you were still working there, do you think you would have made a push for her to be the champion at
No, I don't believe so. I really don't. I don't believe so. Matt, there are some women that I worked with. I'm not lying to you. There are some women that I work with that I felt legitimately could beat up some men. I legitimately, when I worked with Medusa in her prime, I legitimately think there were a handful of guys she could have beat up. Freaking Jackie Moore. Like, are you right. Kidding, bro? If I'm having a bar fight, I want to have a bar fight with Jackie Moore by my side. Legitimate. There were legitimate women that could hurt you, and I felt that Chyna could hurt you to a point. But when you got to that top tier level, well, now she's out of a league.
What was your relationship with her at this point up until the time that you left? How close did you work with her? How well did you know her? And how much did the cracks in her veneer come out from her, what you said was a challenging background?
Matt, you would never know it because she was always laughing. And bro, she had that Herman Munster laugh where, like, if she laughed, she made you. She was always laughing, always happy. Matt, I think what was finally starting to happen in her life, this is all going to come into play. I'm going to put on my glasses here to remind you of a couple of things. ROTC, FBI, DEA, Peace Corps, singer in a band, flight attendant, belly dancer, bodybuilder, wrestler, 3 stepfathers, 1 stepmother, moving all around the world, finishing high school in Spain. I think, Matt, with Chyna, this was the first time in her entire life that Joanie Laurer had an identity. Everybody knew who Chyna was. She was stable. She was a star. She was comfortable in that skin. And I think throughout her entire life, with 3 stepdads, 1 stepmom, there was always a lot of confusion. Leaving the house at 16, not having the guidance, all these career choices, all these moves. I think there was a sense of who the F am I? Who am I? What do I really want to do in my life? What am I supposed to be doing? I'm going from one thing to the next like a pinball machine. With Chyna came staying power. That was her identity. That was now who she was. What she did on the show didn't matter. How she was booked did not matter. But I think for the first time, it was, my name is Joanie Laurer, and I am Chyna.
And how important, looking back on it now, was the relationship, personally and politically, to Triple H to that identity?
It was very important. Triple H did some bad things to me back in 2002. Okay, I believe Triple H is the reason that I'm blackballed. Okay, bro, so I could sit here and bury Triple H. I don't do that. I don't do that. He took care of her. And he did it the right way. You can more or less say, bro, even though Triple H was very young at the time, Triple H was handling his career along with her career. Triple H, Chyna was a part of Triple H. And as Triple H was booking himself and looking out for his career, and he was very intelligent, very respectful, very smart, he was doing the same exact thing for her.
So he wasn't being politically selfish with Chyna at all.
What do you mean by that?
I guess what that means is we all know that Triple H has always been good and learned from the best as far as, how to position himself. But it wasn't ever at the expense of Chyna because he cared so much about her.
No, never. No. He was more protective of her than anything else.
We've heard stories of the Macho Man and Elizabeth where she seemed to be a kept woman. She seemed to be under his control, and he would freak out if people talked to her and that kind of thing. Did you ever see anything?
No.
So it wasn't like that at all. It wasn't like that
Not at all. Not at all. Like I said, bro, I'm telling you, she finally found her identity, and she finally knew who she was, and that was something she was searching for her whole life. Creative was secondary. What she was doing on tonight's show was not important. I was Chyna. I know who I am now. I'm comfortable. I'm stable. This is going to be for a long time. I think that's what she was in search of her whole life.
And is this something that you've come to a conclusion about, or something that through conversations with her and people who know her, you've come to the conclusion about, or something she told you about?
I came to the conclusion when it ended.
So in your absence, she gets the Playboy deal. And of course the Playboy deal is somewhat as a result of her getting a lot of reconstructive surgery done.
I remember when she got that surgery, she was sending me pictures. Bro, her entire head was wrapped like the mummy. Her entire face was wrapped. She only had two literal slits for her eyes, but that was definitely when I was there. So I don't think she got that done for Playboy.
Talking about the massive reconstruction surgery she had, what was her reasoning for doing that if it wasn't for Playboy?
It was Matt. I was told at the time, and bro, for all I know, it could be the truth. It was some kind of health reasons. It had something to do with her jaw, or, she did not paint it in a way that, I'm getting reconstructive surgery for just to enhance my physical appearance. That's not what was said. It was, it was explained that it was being done for medical reasons.
But most people who get nose jobs say they do it because they've.
But it wasn't a nose job, bro. It wasn't.
I'm just saying, it sounds like it's not like she's saying, I don't feel good about the way I look. I want to look prettier, so they're smashing my face and putting it back together. No one's going to say that.
Right. But I don't want to assume that either. You know what I'm saying? I don't know that for a fact.
When you first see Chyna after the reconstructive surgery, what did you think?
God, I don't even know what I'm allowed to say anymore without getting in trouble. You want to know what I really thought?
Sure.
You're too pretty now. Now you could be a diva. You know what I mean? Now you're attractive. Now you're very attractive now. We could stand you next to Sable now. I definitely felt it hurt the character.
So that's interesting to me. Because
am I allowed to say that? Can I say that, Matt?
I think you can. Because right. I think what you're saying is that the aesthetic she had before worked for the character she had, but for her to change her appearance so drastically, and no one can argue against that, it changes that character. But you really believe that her ceiling in the business was higher with her old look than her new look?
Yes. Yep.
So there's a story of Blackjack Lanza, someone saying to him that her attitude hasn't changed and she's in Playboy, and he said, well, the magazine hasn't come out yet. And do you think her attitude changed at all with the magazine and the fame and the look and everything? Did you start to see that transition before you left?
Not before I left. Definitely not. Not before I left. No.
So
even when she had that massive surgery that made her physically look beautiful, that did not change her.
So she's the same person you've always known, still not talking, still kind of following the lead, whether she's tied in storylines to Triple H or not. When she's doing the stuff...
She always knew. You got to remember, it's important, Matt. It's very, 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 very important because it's all going to come into play. She knew Triple H had her best interest. She knew, she trusted him 1,000%. That's why she never spoke up. That's why she never got involved. That's why my interaction with her would always be personal, goofing around, laughing. She knew Triple H had her best interest, and he did.
When she's not tied to Triple H in a storyline, if she's getting moved along where she's on a track for the Intercontinental title, is he still extremely involved in her character?
Yes, 100%. Yes.
Was there an occasion where you would ever Triple H would give you just his power had increased to the point where he could give you direction, or was he giving you input?
Oh no, it would be it would definitely be a conversation, bro. Like it would definitely be. It would be like, okay, bro, like here's what I got. This is what I got. This is why. This is where we're going. And then at that point, it's a conversation.
But it's not like Aldo Montoya or Mantar are coming talking to you. Like Triple H has increased political power at this point.
Nah, I wouldn't say it, bro. I got to tell you, Triple H was always professional. He was so professional to the point of there was a night where he was in a program with D'Lo for a pretty long time, and D'Lo was doing the favor a lot of nights. And there was a night when Triple H was supposed to do the favor for D'Lo. And Triple H refused to do it. And this was like the first time I had ever saw that. I was so shocked and taken back because of my working relationship with him that I cut a promo on him. And I was like, bro, are you kidding me? Freaking D'Lo has put you over so many times and helped to get you over. But now when it's your turn to put him over, you don't want to do it. Like, I'll never forget that, because to me, that was out of character for Hunter. But that was also closer to the end of me working with him. So I don't know where it went after that, but that was like the first sign that I saw, and it really pissed me off.
What would be his reasoning? I'm a bigger star.
Yes. Yeah, that's it. I'm not putting D'Lo over. Yes, that's it.
And for you, that's completely out of character. He'd never done anything like that before.
Never.
Truth with Consequences fans, we have a deal for you. We have some great shirts, and we have new shirts that are being designed every single day. And just for the month of November, if you order a shirt, Vince Russo himself will give you a phone call to thank you for your purchase. Domestic orders only. That's right. If you buy a shirt this month, November 2018, Vince Russo himself will give you a call to thank you, and that's any of our shirts. Unfortunately, we can only offer the phone call for domestic orders. Of course, our most popular Russo Club. In case you want to show that you're a mark for our show, Wonton Bomb Brother, Sunday Morning Heat, blocked in the NWO font in homage to the guy who blocks us instead of talking to us. I'm a Matt Kuhn guy, TWC, the three fonts of the three major companies I Believe Russo, RussoCoon 2020. We got a lot of great shirts, including the iconic Truth with Consequences logo with Matt and Vince at a lie detector. Go to shirtsoftruth.com today to pick up your Truth with Consequences shirt and support the show. Show you're part of the revolution or Russolution and get a phone call from Vince just in the month of November. Domestic orders only. Do it now. After you left, it became aware that that Stephanie and Triple H were together. The story is that Chyna found love letters from Stephanie in Triple H's bag.
Let me tell you what happened there, just so you know. So the first thing she told me, I guess, is her and Triple H were supposed to travel somewhere together, and then all of a sudden, like, you know, something happened and they weren't communicating or something. So he didn't meet her up for the flight or something. So literally, like, it's documented. You could hear my show. I'm sure I'm off about a couple of things, but the gist of it is she got on her plane and she's walking towards her seat and she passes Triple H with Vince and Stephanie and the entire family sitting in first class. And she stopped dead in her tracks and was like, that was the first time she realized, well, okay. Then she told me the final thing was that Stephanie had written him a letter that she did find in one of her bags. And, you know, that's when she knew without a shadow of a doubt, even though she suspected, and she told me that's when she confronted him about it.
Then the story goes that Chyna, goes to Vince McMahon and says it is unprofessional of Stephanie to be dating Triple H. That's the story. Have you heard did anything like that occur to your knowledge?
Well, I can tell you this. After listening to Chyna and after knowing Paul, okay, he was, first of all, Chyna referred to Paul at that time as her fiance. So I don't know if they were officially engaged. I don't know. But Chyna at that time referred to Paul as her fiance. He started seeing Stephanie while they were still together. Okay? Knowing Hunter the way I know Hunter, bro, at that time, I don't think Hunter's the same guy today. He can't be. At that time, he was such a nice guy. I know he didn't tell her because he didn't want to hurt her. I mean, I know that. I know he wasn't trying to get away with anything. He did not tell her and was not honest with her because he didn't want to hurt her. I guarantee you 100% because he was really a stand-up guy. And Chyna would tell me, like, Vince, if they fell in love, fine. People fall in love. That's what she told me. People fall in love. I'm cool with that. But tell me, don't let me find a letter and then don't deny it. Tell me. And that led to what has blackballed me from the WWE. I know it, and I'll tell you why. Because when she found the letter, that led to a verbal confrontation. And when Chyna came on my show, she was telling the story, and she said that verbal altercation led to a physical altercation. And she said Triple H hit her. She said that on my show. When she said that, I did not know she was going down that road. I had never heard that before. Obviously, bro, I'm not taking sides. I was not in that room. I don't know what happened. I don't know if she hit him first. I don't know if there was no hit at all. I don't know what happened. So I was kind of like, okay. And she told a story and she said that Triple H hit her. Well, bro, about a week later, believe it or not, I run into Terry Taylor at an airport. Terry Taylor's working for the WWE. He's working for Hunter, and he's working at NXT. And me and Terry are close and have been friends for years. And Terry said to me, freaking Triple H is livid at you. I said, why is he livid at me? And Terry said, because Chyna said on your show that he hit her. And I said, okay, Terry, Chyna said that. Like, I didn't say that. Like, I wasn't privy to it. I don't know what happened. I said, I interview guests every week. We don't go over interviews. I don't know what questions I'm going to ask them. That came out in the interview. Terry turned around to me and said, well, you should have edited that out. I said, Terry, with all due respect, I am not going to edit out anything that any of my guests say on my show. That's her story. That's her truth. She said it. And if Triple H wants to have an issue with me, bro, then have an issue with me. I don't edit out what people say. And literally, bro, from that moment on, it was the let's bury Vince Russo campaign. And Matt, with all due respect, F them. F the WWE. We're talking about human beings here. We're talking about human beings, and in this case, you're talking about my friend. Here's what triggered this whole thing. The Stone Cold Steve Austin podcast. When at the time, Chyna is living in China, Japan, wherever she was, minding her own freaking business, not bothering anybody. Okay, I know that because I'm in contact with her while she's over there. Hunter makes a decision that I'm going to go on Stone Cold Steve Austin's podcast. So somebody asks him why Chyna isn't in the Hall of Fame. And he had that answer that if a kid Google the name Chyna, what are they going to see? In the meantime, Chyna was falling apart in Japan. Falling apart. Because I was in contact with her every week. She was so freaking fragile. And my first thought was, if she ever catches wind of him saying this. So when he said that, I freaking took offense to it. And I was like, how freaking dare you? Everybody knows the WWE, when they want to get out of something, what do they say? Never say never. That's all he had to say, bro. Is Chyna going to be inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame? I don't know. Never say never. End of conversation. But to say, oh, bro, a 12-year-old kid is going to go on there and see her a porn career? Like, really, bro? Like, you piece of crap. She's an alcoholic. She's addicted to freaking medication. And you're going to make a comment like that? Screw you. So, of course, my next conversation with Chyna, she knew what he said. It had gotten back to her. It hurt her tremendously. And that's when she came on my show and told her story.
Of course, they always say never. Chances are, by the time that this airs, there might be a reoccurrence or reemergence of Hulk Hogan on WWE TV. So never say never. But you don't see pornography as kind of a demarcation line of whether someone should be in the Hall of Fame or not. You think that was just pointed towards Chyna regardless of what she did?
Well, that's not what I'm saying. Okay, but first of all, you don't have to say that. You don't have to say that. Second of all, Matt, do we want to go through the criminal backgrounds of everybody in the WWE Hall of Fame? There are people in the WWE Hall of Fame that killed people. People have done a lot worse than appear in pornography. And Matt, why did she appear in pornography? Because she had to make money. Because they drove her out of the business and she had to make money. So am I going to hold that against her when she needed to earn a paycheck? Of course I'm not going to hold that against her. But there are felons in the WWE Hall of Fame.
But let's go back to what you're saying. They drove her to pornography. She had to do it to make money. She was an alcoholic. She had a lot of issues. How much personal responsibility does Chyna have?
100%.
Because a lot of us came from challenging backgrounds. I did too. A lot of us can point to our backgrounds and say, well, here's why I'm fucked up in this way or that way. But it's hard to hold WWE accountable for someone else's decisions.
No, it's not. I'll tell you why they're the biggest dicks in the world. Don't edit that out, because I want that to be one of the many reasons why I never work there again.
All right.
Because I want to make sure, Matt, this is what it comes down to. And, you asked me earlier off camera, Vince, there have been a lot of casualties in wrestling. Mike Awesome. We can go down the list.
Right.
Why are they responsible for Chyna?
Right.
I'm going to tell you why. I'm going to tell you why they're responsible, and I'm going to tell you why they're the biggest douchebags in the world. Listen to me now, okay? I've set the stage of how important it was to her that she now had an identity. And you got to remember, I was a big fan of Triple H when he was in the doghouse because of what they did at Madison Square Garden, and Bruce and freaking Cornette wanted them all fired. I was in Triple H's corner. I stood up for Triple H. When Jim Cornette told Vince McMahon Triple H would never make a dime in this business, I told Jim Cornette he was wrong. So he did not have a bigger fan in his corner than me. You've got a woman, when we look at her background, she has a very shattered past. She's all over the freaking map. She's unstable. That is clear as day by anybody that looks at her background. Now, as Joanie said to me, Vince, if Stephanie and Triple H fall in love, they fall in love. People can't help when they fall in love. If they fall in love, they fall in love. Her words to me. Matt, let's look at this logically. Okay, they fall in love. Stephanie confronts Chyna at a TV with Vince McMahon standing on the other side of the door. Okay, and basically says to Chyna, Paul and I are in love. He's mine, and there's not a damn thing you're going to do about it. And there wasn't, because Vince was on the other side of the door. Okay, fine. People fall in love. So obviously, Matt, we know at that point, number one, she's now lost who she called her fiance. I don't know about that, but she referred to him as her fiance. So number one, you've got the trauma of her losing they had a house together, Matt. They had a house together. They bought what are your intentions if you're buying a house together? Hello?
Right.
Okay, so she lost her fiance. Fine. In her own words, they fell in love. That happens. Okay. Number two, she can't work there anymore. Again, let's be logic about this. She can't work there anymore. She's not going to be able to work there anymore, and there's going to be peace, love, and understanding now that Triple H and Stephanie are together. We can see that, and we can understand that. Okay, she's not going to be able to work there anymore. They're going to release her. They're going to release her on their time, so it doesn't look like this is why she's being released. But even she's smart enough to know I don't have a career here anymore. Okay, so Matt, she lost a fiance. She lost her career. This is all in the same day now. Okay, Matt. Finally, they don't renew her contract. Okay, bro. So now she's got to go out there in the world and make a living. Let me ask you something, Matt. Who does Hollywood want to hire? Who does Hollywood want to get in business with? Do they want to get in business with Chyna, or do they want to get in business with Joanie Laurer? Who do they want to get in business with?
I see where you're getting with this.
What do they do? What do they do? They take her name. They take her name from her. You can no longer use the name Chyna. In taking her name from her, they took the identity from her that she had been searching for her whole entire life. So you're going to sit there, anybody's going to sit there and tell me, you take my fiance, you take my job, you take my identity and livelihood, and I'm going to be just okay? What freaking harm under the circumstances would it have been for them to at least give her the dignity of keeping the Chyna name? You know what? Joanie Laurer is Chyna. You molded that character. That's who you were. Unfortunately, what happened here, was just a set of bad circumstances. Obviously, you can't work here anymore. You're going to have to go out there and make a living. Tell you what we're going to do. You can use the Chyna name. That's what any decent human being would have done. Any decent human being, but they're not decent. And they prove it time and time and time again. And when they took her identity from her, she was done. And she was never able to overcome that, ever.
How is that different than them doing the same thing trademark-wise to other people? Like, there's many, many wrestlers that have had to move on not having the name. Brutus Beefcake moved on not having the name. And the other side is WWE, from their viewpoint, their vantage point, they built up the character, they created the character, they have equity in the character.
Yep.
In Chyna, Joanie did have an opportunity to go out and do the best she could with what she had. I'm not sure she's as singled out as you think she is.
I think she is. Matt, it all comes down to how you treat human beings. And I say this again and again and again about the WWE. And if the fact that they're going to Saudi Arabia, or they already went at this point, if that doesn't tell you everything you need to know about that company and Vince McMahon, I don't know what will. This is everything. This is not the first time you're going to hear this from Vince McMahon. They don't give a shit about people. They don't. Vince McMahon did not give a shit about me when he told me to hire a nanny to watch my kids. They don't care about freaking people. Okay? Stephanie and Hunter had an affair. And they had an affair behind Joanie's back. Fine. They fell in love, bro. Were they upfront and honest with her? Absolutely not. Okay, bro? Because of that affair, she can no longer work there. Okay, bro, it has nothing to do with, I don't know why Brutus Beefcake left. I don't know why this one left. I don't know why that one left. Nobody left because their daughter was having an affair with somebody else's fiance. Nobody left under those circumstances. So the fact is, they were having an affair relationship behind her back. She lost her job because of that, which is also understandable. Be a freaking human being and let her keep her name so she can make a living. That's what a caring human being is going to do.
And I do empathize with that as someone who left home when I was very young, as someone who had to make it in this world on my own as well. I empathize with that 100%. Let me give you some comparables real quick. Sean Waltman, his life and his, her post-Chyna life intertwined with his. Of course, he cares about her a great deal, is an awesome protector of her legacy and thinks very highly of her. But Sean Waltman, young wrestler, comes in WWE, is built up, is given an identity as the 1, 2, 3 kid, is tossed aside, is not given his name, has addiction issues, but he's able to make a life for himself where it seems like, to me, he's doing very well now. Why do we hold WWE more accountable for Chyna than we do Sean Waltman? Because
WWE always had a relationship with Sean Waltman. They never cut Sean Waltman off. Sean Waltman told me, or was it Chyna? One of them told me the story, but when Sean Waltman and Chyna were living together and they were both addicts, Triple H drove to their house to personally pick up Sean Waltman and drive him to rehab. They never cut Sean Waltman off, ever. To this day, Sean Waltman still has a relationship with them. They cut her off. Make no bones about it. She was dead to them. What happened to her from that point forward, they were not responsible for, and they did not care about.
The situation that happened a few years later with Edge and Lita and Matt Hardy, there was an affair that took place. Matt Hardy and Lita, I believe, may have been engaged or definitely lived together, definitely were closely rated. Matt Hardy was not as big a star as Edge. He gets booted aside. But Matt Hardy made himself essential in the world to being brought back, and he was actually able to do business and be above the situation, hold himself professionally. Do you feel Chyna was unable to do that, or didn't have the opportunity?
She was unable to do, Matt. You're looking at somebody's makeup. You're looking at somebody's makeup. When you look at her history, and how fragile it was, and there was no stability, and there was no rock in her life. There was no father figure, bro. When it all depends on the individual. And because of her makeup, because of her background, because of who she was not able to handle these three horrific blows at once. This is what set her off on the road to drug abuse. And Matt, I could be that guy. I could freaking be that guy with the shit they do to me. I could be that guy, but my makeup's different. I'm not going to let them beat me. I'm not going to let them get the best of me. Screw you, bro. I'm going to speak up and I'm going to bury you right here. I don't care what you do. That was not her makeup. And Matt, to the day that she died, what did she want?
She wanted
to put me in the WWE Hall of Fame.
Right.
She still wanted to be recognized. Joanie, you're somebody. You're somebody. And we're going to put you in the WWE Hall of Fame so everybody will know you're somebody. That's all she freaking wanted, bro. And again, any freaking human being that sees a woman struggling like this and crying out and wanting something this badly, any human being is going to make that happen. And you know what, Matt? If that happened, we don't know if that wouldn't have changed her life around. We don't know. We'll never know. But they wouldn't even take her phone calls. They were taking Sean Waltman's phone calls. They were not taking her phone calls.
I guess what I'm saying, they're not taking your phone calls. Are they?
Let's make it clear. I'm not calling.
Well, that's true. That's true. And they're not taking Tony Schiavone's either. But
yeah, let's make that clear.
So what makes them more responsible for her than they are for you? Do you think they were aware of what they were doing, or do you think they just don't care evenly about what they're doing about people? And because
they don't care about people. They don't care about people.
So
once she was gone, once she was no longer drawing money for them, they did not give a shit about her.
But she didn't do herself many favors. And I'm not here to crap on Chyna, by the way. I think she was one of the greatest of all time. I don't think she was treated fairly. I think she has a bigger due to her than has been given to her for sure. But I'm trying to make the argument that people listening to the show might make as well about personal accountability. She didn't really do herself many favors outside the ring as well, whether it be trying to confront Triple H at Roddy Piper's funeral.
First of all, I just want to say one thing about the Roddy Piper thing, because I don't know what's been reported or what's been said. Her side of the story to me directly was she loved Piper. And obviously they had a relationship. She was invited to the funeral. Her story is she went to the funeral. It was by invitation only. She saw Triple H. She gave Triple H a hug, and she whispered in Triple H, "I'm sorry." That's the extent of that story, according to her. That's what she told me.
She's also stated that she did write Ann Russo Gordon at WWE asking for help in rehab and was never responded to. It's said by Meltzer that her credibility is questionable. Do you feel that Chyna's credibility when she says things like
yes
what is questionable?
Yes, no doubt about it. Listen, I had the experience, and it really meant a lot to me, and I believe him. After Chyna passed away, Sean Waltman and I found ourselves working together in Germany. So I wound up taking a very long car ride with Sean Waltman. And Sean Waltman said to me, "Vince, nobody loved Joanie more than I do. Nobody still loves Joanie more than I do. But Vince," and he said, "Vince, I know you love her, and I know you're her friend. You cannot believe everything she says." You know, and I mean, I know he did not bury her. He did not speak badly about her character. I felt he was being totally honest with me when he said, you cannot believe everything she tells you, and I believed him.
And that's an addict. You know, an addict
yes.
is you
yes.
love the person from afar, and you dislike the addiction, not the person. But her being in that state, it could lead to a situation where you might believe that she heard the comment Triple H said about Googling. She got on your show and she was looking for payback, and that story, it might be something that people can take with a grain
Matt,
of salt.
Can I say this, Matt? Prior to Triple H ever saying this is why I was so lit. Matt, she would Skype me from wherever she was in the middle of the night. When Chyna would Skype me in the middle of the night, Matt, I knew she was in trouble. She would come on, Skype me, bro. We would be face to face. Matt, she would be out of it to the point, Matt, that I would try to keep her on the phone as long as I possibly could, because I was scared to death that if I hung up the phone, I would read about them finding her dead the next day. So I used to stay on the phone with her all night, hoping she would get a little bit sober, come down, or I don't know what she was on. I don't know. She was out of it. I couldn't understand what she was saying, and I would keep her on the phone as long as I could because I did not want them to find her dead the next day. So this is the woman I was dealing with when Triple H made that comment.
When did your friendship and your relationship get to that point where you guys were talking so often? You definitely probably lost touch when you joined WCW. She's released a year or two thereafter. When did you guys become every week phone talkers?
God, bro, probably when prior to her coming back to TNA.
In 2011, she was brought into TNA. You were there. The idea, according to Meltzer, was that she would be Kurt Angle's secret new girlfriend for a feud with.
That's not true. That was never even discussed. Never even discussed that she was going to be Kurt's girlfriend.
So, and I'm going to finish this.
Where would he get?
That's a good question.
Where does he get something like that?
Well, let me finish. The idea was that she would be Kurt Angle's secret new girlfriend for a feud with Jeff Jarrett and Karen Jarrett. The girlfriend part was quickly dropped, and after the pay-per-view, due to problems, she was never used again. That's a good question. I'm reading today from one of these great obituaries that Meltzer does. He does. It's just thousands of words and I'm reading from the Chyna one. I don't think, with how seriously Dave Meltzer takes himself, that he's just sitting there making stuff up. Who do you think has given him that kind of wrong outside information?
I have no idea. That was never ever discussed. And man, let me tell you something too, what a lot of people don't know. Do you know why that was short-lived? First of all, somehow, some way, I was able to make contact with her on the phone. I don't even know how. Matt, I never thought in a million years she would ever be interested in coming back into wrestling. I never thought in a million years. So I was shocked when I was more or less able to talk her into it. Okay? Bruce can verify this situation. The first night we met up with her, you know who met with her that night? Me, Bruce, Jim Cornette, Jim Ross, Vince McMahon. No, it was me and Bruce. Okay, bro. Matt, I have to tell you, I hadn't seen her in years. Now, Matt, I saw the Stern show where her boobs popping out. I saw the reality shows. I saw that entire mess. I saw it all. Okay? Matt, when she walked into the restaurant that night, brother, she was stunning. Stunning. Matt, I could not tell her enough that night how freaking beautiful she looked. She was stunning. Stunning. Beautiful. Sober. Stunning. Okay? So me and Bruce had a great dinner with her, just the three of us. Bruce, whatever the contract was, I don't get involved. Then, bro, she comes, she does that spot for us. After that spot, Bruce finds out prior to coming back, she did another porn film and it was going to come out. And Bruce was like, oh, bro, like, we can't have this. At the end of her life, she was talking to me about doing another film with Vivid. And you know all she kept talking about, bro? This is all she kept talking about. The way the people at Vivid treated her. They make me feel like they really care about me, Vince. The president of the company calls me all the time. Again, bro, it's like there was just a huge part of her. That's what she was constantly looking for. Now, and I was even telling her at the end, Joanie, you can't do this. But that's what I always heard, the way she was treated by the people at Vivid.
Bruce Pritchard, did he have the decision-making power, or is it something coming down to Bruce for him to let you know?
I think in that case, Bruce had the decision-making power. I think Bruce could have made the decision at that time.
Do you think he was wrong?
Bro, everybody looked at her porn career differently than I did. And again, I knew two things. I knew, number one, she needed a paycheck. And I knew they treated her like a star. And I knew that meant a lot to her. So, like, I understood her reasonings for doing it, but I could also understand the reason why. Well, you know, does that hurt our company? Does that hurt our brand? And see, the fact of the matter is, did Bruce say that? Did Bruce put out a press release? Chyna's no longer with us because we found out she's got another movie coming out. No. Did Triple H do that? Yes. That's the difference.
When the conversation happens, is it between Bruce and Chyna, or are you involved?
Yeah. I'm not involved in that.
And so, what was your reaction when you heard that she was going to work with the company? You must have been heartbroken for her.
Yeah, but I think, Matt, it was also money. I think money was also an issue there. You know, I think it was more than just, one thing.
But that wasn't the end of Vince Russo's professional involvement.
No.
With Chyna. You had tried to you made a call, I believe. I think you told me this, to Lucha Underground and trying to bring her in to Lucha Underground. What was that situation?
Well, yeah, I suggested it because, like I said, bro, my last dealings with her, bro, she looked like a movie star. She was in tremendous shape. She looked great. she spoke fluid Spanish. So, I think I spoke to Joseph. What's his first name over there?
Chris
Joseph, and I also mentioned it to Conan. Bro, there was no doubt in the Chyna that appeared at that hotel, at that restaurant that night, the Chyna that appeared at TNA, there was no doubt in my mind that Joanie Laurer could still draw money. No doubt in my mind. And Lucha Underground was trying to just get off the ground. They just started. And I thought, my God, man, this could be a great fit. She needed work. She needed money. She asked me if I could go to bat for her, and I said absolutely. So I did mention her to them.
Meltzer reports that Conan said she wouldn't fit in. To your knowledge, why didn't it work out in Lucha Underground with Chyna?
I don't know. I mean, if those are conversations Conan and those guys had, not me. I have no idea.
She joined Celebrity Rehab in 2008. It says here largely due to pleading by Sean Waltman, who wrote, "This is a critical time for you and anyone else who has profited from doing business with her to step up and help save this woman's life. She is on the losing end of a life or death battle with drugs and alcohol, along with severe mental illness." Did you see any of her appearances on Celebrity Rehab?
I know I did the Celebrity House. I know that's when Sean went to visit her and all that stuff. I must have, Matt. I must have, but I can't remember. But Matt, I did have. You know who Adrienne Curry is?
Oh yeah, the top model.
I did have Adrienne Curry on my show after Chyna passed. She came on my show, and they were very, very close. And like she just told me, like on Celebrity House, whatever it was called. Adrienne was a recovering addict. Okay, she had gone down that road, and she said at that point in time that Joanie was a full-blown drug addict. I mean, full-blown. And they did everything they possibly could do in that house to help her, and they were not able to help her.
Let's talk a little bit about Sean Waltman. Sean Waltman, of course, was very involved with her personally, professionally, cared about her a lot, as I said. How important was Sean Waltman in her life these last years of it?
I think very important. And like I said, Sean's a stand-up guy, bro. And listen, Matt, I did not add this. Okay. There was a point in there before TNA where Joanie started writing a book. And she was like, "Vince, I don't know what I want to do with this. I just know, like, I've got to get all this out. You're the only person who I would share this with." Okay? So she sent me the book. This was the first time, Matt, I was really reading about the blow by blow with Hunter and Stephanie and what happened and how she found out, all in her words. And God, bro, I got to tell you, like, as a writer, like, the emotion in her words was so freaking powerful. And as a writer, like, I'm reading this, and it would have been very hard for this stuff to not be true, because it was like her freaking guts were on those pages. And more than even Hunter and Stephanie, a lot of it was about Sean Waltman. And she used to refer to Sean as Chucky. The Chucky doll, right, from Child's Play. Sure. She always referred to him as Chucky. And she made Sean Waltman look like an absolute monster. And I got to tell you, Matt, while I'm reading this book, like, I knew Sean, And I'm like, Chyna, like, I love you, Joanie, but reading this, I can tell it was a two-way street. I can tell 100%, Sean Waltman was not 100% responsible just by some of the things that you're saying. And like I said, man, when I got to meet up with Sean in Germany, I don't doubt anything he said. He has never said an ill word about her. He has never, thrown her, off the bridge
at all.
He has always been so respectful. And man, I respect the shit out of him because of that.
Does that make you feel that maybe some of these other stories could be a two-way street, or did the Sean Waltman stuff really pop out to you as stuff that maybe was out of line?
No, a lot of she was a drug addict, bro. So, bro, everything she said and everything she wrote, I took with I don't know if Hunter ever hit her. I have no idea what went on behind closed doors. So I'm not naive. I'm not a dummy. I'm just talking about as a human being who knows the individual. When you look back on her life and when you walk through her life, the inevitable happened. It was going to happen. That's the path it was going to go down. And I'll be honest with you. The only people that could have stopped it from going down that path was the WWE. And I'm being 100% honest with you. Because if they would have given her the time of day, if they would have spoken to her, if they would have put her in the Hall of Fame when they knew how badly she wanted that, who knows if that would have turned around her life around or not? Who knows? I don't know that. I can tell you it would have had an impact. It would have definitely had a huge positive impact on her life. That I could tell you.
It's a sad story, and it's one that's a cautionary tale. But when you look back on it, ultimately, we are all responsible for our own lives. And Chyna is ultimately responsible, you feel? Or do you feel that in this case, there are other people that you can hold accountable more so than you would be for somebody else?
She was ultimately responsible. She was not equipped to deal with the hand that she was dealt. It's that simple. Yes, she was 100% responsible. She made every single one of her own decisions. She was not equipped to be able to deal with the blows that were thrown her way in a very, very short time. And that eventually led to her complete downfall.
And that brings us to April 20th, where Joanie Laurer was found passed away at her home in Redondo Beach at the age of 46. When we talked about this show, of course, it says that it was an accidental overdose. But when you and I talked about this show, you firmly believe that the cause of death for Joanie Laurer, Chyna, was the wrestling business.
Oh, no doubt in my mind. No doubt. Just like, I can say this right now without a shadow of a doubt. The wrestling business has taken years off the life of Vince Russo. Now, because I'm a different person, and because I have a different makeup, and because I had a different background, and because I had a mother and father that were together till the day my mom passed away, okay, I was able to handle it. Okay, I wasn't driven to alcohol. They're not going to drive me to drugs. Do they drive me into a deep depression? Absolutely, yes. I am equipped to get out of that situation. She was not equipped to do that.
I'm going to close with the words of Mick Foley about Chyna, talking about after she passed. He said, "So next year, when the announcements are made, if Chyna is not an inductee, don't be sad. The real Hall of Fame is inside all of us. It's a Hall of Fame based on the way the superstars made us feel. The smiles they produced, the memories they created for us, the legacies they forged that will stand the test of time. By that standard, Joanie Laurer, Chyna, the ninth wonder of the world, was inducted into the hall that really matters, our Hall of Memories, a long time ago.
Beautiful. And that's what I always say, because every time around the year, there's the people are coming out of the woodwork about Chyna in the Hall of Fame, Chyna in the Hall of Fame, and I am the guy. I always say, guy, stop with Chyna in the Hall of Fame. We do not need the grand poobah himself to anoint Chyna and tell us that Chyna was somebody. I don't need to hear that from Vince McMahon. Quite honestly, I don't give a rat's ass what Vince McMahon thinks about Chyna, because the Hall of Fame will always be freaking political. Any human being alive working this planet that either worked with Joanie or saw Joanie work, no, she's freaking Mickey Mantle. Okay, bro? Her not being in the WWE Hall of Fame is like Babe Ruth not being in the WWE Hall of Fame. It's that simple. It's a political cesspool. I don't need Vince McMahon to tell me how great Chyna was. Like I said, bro, anybody who worked with her, anybody who watched her perform, we know how great she was. Period. End of story. As a matter of fact, bro, in my opinion, she's probably too good a person to even be in the WWE Hall of Fame.
Too good for wrestling, huh?
Too good for wrestling.
Well, with that, we close out this week. Of course, check us out at patreon.com/RussoCoonTWC, and you will have gotten this show days and days earlier than everybody else, and also access to all kinds of great stuff. We thank all of our Patreons. We couldn't do the show without you. And of course, visit us on Twitter at RussoCoonTWC. Vince, what you got going on the Realm Network this week?
Yeah, well, guys, this week, man, we are up to 10 shows a week, man, on the brand, the Realm Network. 10 shows a week. Bro, it's less than a dime a show, for crying out loud. We got 2 brand new shows on there. Venom Vinyl, where, you guys, I'm obsessed with albums. And yes, that is albums. I'm obsessed with them. I'm going to start doing album reviews. Also, Mark and Mark, bro. 2 guys that we stole from the dirt sheet world. They see things completely differently than Vince Russo. They love New Japan. They love Kenny Omega. They love wrestling matches with no psychology, where people just jump around a lot. They now have their own show. You get 10 shows a week, less than $1 a week, no long-term commitment. Just go to russosbrand.com.
Of course, you can listen to us as well next week on Vince Russo, Truth with Consequences.